Oh, right now, Helen Whately's here, Shadow Secretary of State for Transport. Helen, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. It looks a bit nicer down there than it is up here. I know you're not very far away, but autumn is upon us, it would seem. We seem to have traversed all the way into a new season. Can I start by asking you about David Lammy? Because David Lammy shocked an awful lot of people, has made Israel furious, surprised the White House. But when I watched Andrew Mitchell's response to him, I sort of got the impression that Andrew Mitchell kind of agreed with him. I'm not sure what Tory policy is on this.
So I think the important point to make is the timing is pretty surprising, and as Andrew Mitchell himself has said, hard to swallow this announcement from Labour on limiting arms to Israel so soon after we've just seen Hamas murder 6 hostages who they had kidnapped. So the timing is particularly shocking on that. And I think it's very important, and our position in opposition is that we should stand firm with Israel and be clear to show our support for Israel as they fight back against Hamas, who are, of course, a terrorist organisation. Yes, we are concerned about the humanitarian situation in Gaza. We do want to make sure that aid gets through to people in Gaza. We do want to see a ceasefire. But alongside that, it's important that we stand firm in our support for Israel.
So do you support Labour's call, though, to suspend these licences then? Or are you going to ask Labour to reverse that decision?
Well, as a member of the opposition, I haven't seen the legal advice that the Foreign Secretary and that government has been given. I do recognise that there is a legal process here to follow. I'm glad to see that David Lammy said they would publish as much of that as they could, and it's something that we will be looking at, what they publish, so that we have clearly a clearer picture. But as I said a moment ago, I think it's very important that we stand firm in our support for Israel.
Yeah, but,
the other thing
but Helen, Israel would expect, if you want to stand firm with them, to absolutely honestly condemn it. They're furious about this, and I don't think are going to go along with it, saying, oh, well, we're OK if this happens. I mean, it doesn't actually affect them. It doesn't affect their defence capability either. It's a virtue signalling move by Lammy to try and curry favour with his voters.
Well, actually, that was something I was just going to come to, and I think that you say that it's a signalling point, and there's a particular issue with the timing in the light of the murder of those 6 hostages, and when clearly Hamas is still holding Israeli hostages as well. One of the things that I am concerned about, so there is a question of what the legal advice is, but I would be concerned that if this is a sign of Labour essentially caving into pressure from some of their backbenchers on this. We know that some of their backbenchers have come under a lot of pressure over Gaza, and what matters is for government to do the right thing, not just to bow to that. And it's something which, and I know we'll probably come to this in a moment, the rail bill that is going to be heard in Parliament today, that's a highly ideological bill, and it's something that Labour is really rushing. Again, that's something I'm concerned they're rushing because it's something that is popular with their backbenchers and with the unions.
It seems to me that they are dancing very much to the unions' tune. They've done it with the doctors, they've done it now with the teaching unions, they've changed an awful lot of the way that Ofsted works. This nationalisation bill of the railways, I mean, it seems to, as you say, be very quickly put together. I've heard other Tory MPs saying they're not happy about the planning for it. What's your position on it? Are you against the nationalisation of the railways?
So I'm against this bill. Now, I recognise that our railways need reform, they need improving. What matters to passengers is fares and reliability. But this bill isn't going to do anything on those things. And in fact, the Transport Secretary herself has said that she doesn't foresee this, for instance, bringing down the fares. So what this is about is it's much more ideological. It's about bringing all the role of the private sector in running train companies, taking that away and putting those controls of train operating companies into the hands of ministers, also bringing a large number of railway workers into the public sector, which is clearly something that I think the unions are going to welcome. It's going to give more power to the unions, who are going to be negotiating pay directly with ministers. One of the amendments that I'm tabling today, and we're tabling as the opposition, is actually that there should be an independent pay review body, like you have, for instance, for nurses, for teachers, for the armed forces, that comes between ministers and the unions to make sure that there's a fair deal for taxpayers as well as a fair deal for workers.
I've got a note here from Sean in Gloucester. I just want to read it to you. It says, "Morning, Mike. I was a lifelong Tory voter until the last election. When Reform got my vote, the two main parties have let us down so badly, taking us ever further to the left, which in my view has caused a deterioration of this country. Now we have liar, not a typo, Starmer, who in 8 weeks or so has set the foundations for total ruin of the United Kingdom." What do you say to that?
It's actually something that I've heard on the doorsteps in my constituency since the election, and I've been canvassing for a local by-election actually being held today, and heard that from quite a few people on the doorstep saying how disappointed they are in Labour already, that they already feel let down, they already feel that promises are being broken. Labour said it wasn't going to put up taxes, now they're rolling the pitch saying that it looks like they are going to put up taxes. Clearly they're going to take away the winter fuel allowance from millions of pensioners, many of whom are going to really struggle to pay the bills through this winter as a result, and are likely to see their energy bills go up as well. So, no, Labour is already disappointing people, and I would say to people who voted Reform, actually, listen hard and look at the position that are being set out by the Tory leadership candidates, who are also listening to those who voted Reform at the election, to make sure that we're going to have a strong pitch as a Conservative Party as the opposition.
OK. One final question that you won't be expecting. 4 out of 10 people apparently don't like apologising because they think they're never wrong. Have you apologised to anybody lately?
Oh, yes, I do. I definitely do. I think it's important to recognise when you're wrong, to say sorry, to admit that. And actually, only when you recognise when you're wrong can you start putting things right.
Very good answer. Thank you very much indeed. Helen Whately, Shadow Secretary of State for Transport there, admitting that, yeah, sometimes she does get it wrong. Well, I think if politicians actually did that a bit more often, we might get somewhere.